Greetings and salutations this fine evening. Now, I did a live stream. For some odd reason, there was an enormous number of people that showed up in my live stream tonight. Nearly 400 at one point in time. A lot of people told me about a video. I went to go see the video. I examined it with a critical eye, with a thinking mind, as you were. And, yeah, I took a poll of the live stream, and there was an enormous number of people that said, you know, you should post a reply to that video because I'm slightly confused. There was a lot of information posted, a little bit of math. And of course, you know, when you actually throw a little bit of math at people, they get confused. And you can kind of convince them of anything. Well, I've got the calculations right here. This must be true. Let me first start off by saying, as an owner of many, actually nearly 600 lenses now, yeah, and owned many thousands of lenses, and repaired them, there is no such thing as a perceptual megapixel. That's right. And you know what else? There's a reason why. Listen closely. There's a reason why Nikon and Canon do not make mini crop sensor lenses. You know why? Because every lens ever made, whether it be an ancient lens or a new lens from Tamron or somebody else, they all have a circle of projection. That's correct, kiddies. Out of the back end of every lens, I got an adapter on this one, is a image circle that is projected, and it is cropped to whatever extent. Now, I don't know if you know this or not, okay? But even using a full-frame lens on a full-frame sensory camera, the image is still heavily cropped. Let me repeat that. A full-frame lens used on a full-frame sensory camera, which is just 35 millimeter basically, is cropped. If you stick a full-frame lens on a crop sensor body, i.e. a DX, the exact same thing happens. There's a little bit more cropping. Let's do a little song, if we will. A crop is a crop is a crop, and only ever a crop. Nothing changes. If you have your feet glued to the floor and you take the same lens and you switch it between a full-frame sensor camera and drop it onto a crop sensor camera, do you know what happens? Nothing happens. Nothing at all. The lens does not communicate except for autofocus and a couple other things. The lens doesn't communicate as far as the image circle of projection. It's just cropped, okay? I also don't know if you know this or not, but some of my favorite images are from a National Geographic photographer. He uses full-frame lenses on crop sensor bodies, specifically, most recently, Nikon D500. I don't know if you know this or not also, but Nikon doesn't make any enormous fat glass, like 600 millimeter f4, 800 millimeter, 400 millimeter 2.8, 500 millimeter f4, 300 millimeter 2.8, on and on and on. They don't make any lenses like that are DX lenses. Do you know why? Do you know why? I'm speaking to you, Mr. YouTuber. It's because every image has a circle of projection. Now, what is an FX lens? It is a lens with a sufficient image circle of projection to cover from corner to corner. Yes, an FX sensor camera. Okay, this notion, this poppycock, this nonsense, this baloney, malarkey, hoodoo, just pure abject silliness of sticking full-frame lenses on crop sensor cameras, being bad or being worse, is nonsense. I can guarantee you, and this is not egotistical, it's an accurate statement, I have tested more old lenses, and they're all full-frame lenses. Like this is an old lens, yeah? This lens is about 55 years. I've tested more full-frame lenses on crop sensor cameras, specifically like Fujifilm, specifically because focus peaking is wonderful with mirrorless, than the top 50 YouTube channels combined. Okay? This nonsense that sticking full-frame lenses on crop sensor cameras is poppycock. It's hogwash. It's complete and total nonsense. Now let me give you, just to be accurate, a direct quote that someone might have stated in a video. This is an exact quote. When you put an FX lens on a DX body... Excuse me, let me continue. When you put an FX lens on a DX body, you are capturing less than half the detail that the lens is producing No, that's not the case. Wrong. You are capturing 100% of what the DX sensor is capable of seeing from that circle of projection. Yeah, this is actually a Nikon D500 sensor, which is a crop sensor. Yeah, this is actually from a Nikon D500. I've always got spare sensors. Yeah, I don't know if I could drive this home maybe a little bit more succinctly. Let me actually try to do that here. Let me see if I could create an ingenious analogy. What we're going to do is we're going to do a circular projection from an FX lens, okay? Let's do that here. Yeah, circular projection from an FX lens. Yeah, there we go. It's not exactly perfectly circular, but I'm going to try to get it close. There we go. Yeah. Every lens ever made, listen closely, drops out a circle out of its rear element. Yeah. Every lens ever made, ever, is a circular, yeah. Okay, now what we're going to do is this is the circular projection from a full-frame lens. What we're going to do is we're going to draw inside this circle, okay? This is slightly humorous, but it's 100% accurate. What we're going to do is I'm going to draw an FX sensor inside this FX lens image circle of projection. Now this circle is what is projected out of the rear of an FX lens. Yes, now right in here, okay, I might get this backwards since I'm looking at a mirror image. You see right there? Yeah, this is an FX sensor. Now let me repeat that statement that was made. When you put an FX lens on a DX body, you are capturing less than half the detail that lens is producing. Yeah, you see all this stuff out here? This is part of the image. The FX sensor doesn't see it. This is wasted. It's not captured. Now if, for example, I were to keep the same FX lens, yeah, the circle is the FX lens, and I were to switch it, yeah, to a DX sensor, you know what happens? Not much. Here is the DX. Now we're going to go DX. There we go. Switch from FX. Now just a little bit more is wasted. Repeat after me. A crop is a crop is a crop and only ever a crop. Let's just see, this confuses people. So I saw a lot of people agreeing with that video, and there's nothing in there to agree with. Now, a guy said in the comments, and this is where you confuse people by telling them incorrect information. A guy said that he wanted to buy a Voigtlander, which is, of course, a full-frame sensor lens, a Voigtlander lens for his Fujifilm camera, his X Pro 2, I think he said. But now he didn't want to buy it because he was erroneously told that would be an unwise idea because you shouldn't stick FX lenses on crop sensor cameras. That is poppycock. It's hogwash, it's nonsense, it's empirically untrue. There is, by the way, additionally so, please let me repeat, there's no such thing as a perceptual megapixel. Let me repeat that again for those of you who are confused. There is no such thing as a perceptual megapixel, right? There's a lot of things that affect exposure and sharpness, and also, too, translational detail, pixel pitch, micro lens array, SNR, the actual, quality of the MTF chart from a specific lens. But does it make any difference what the MTF of a specific lens is? No, it doesn't, because a crop is a crop is a crop, and it's only ever a crop. There's no such thing as a perceptual megapixel. I guess all those National Geographic photographers for these countless many years that were using, like 600 millimeter f4s and 800 millimeter lenses on their DX, a lot of them were Nikon D7200s. Now they're Nikon D500s. Those people, those hardcore professional National Geographic photographers that are using FX lenses on DX crop sensor cameras, I guess they're stupid. No, they're not. They know exactly what they're doing because every lens, yeah, part of the image gets wasted, yeah, and the difference between the full frame and the crop sensor is just, yeah, it's kind of like trimming the crust off of your bread. Remember back when you were a kid, you'd, trim the crust off your bread. By the way, too, importantly, and I think everybody knows this, if they don't, you should know, is that every crop sensor lens, when using a full frame lens, is using the best part of that lens, which is the center part. It's the sharpest, it's the brightest. By the way, that's something else also. No matter how expensive the lens is, whether it's old or new, every lens for photography ever made on Earth, is always brighter in the center and it dims towards the periphery. That means when you use an FX lens with your crop sensor camera, you're taking the best part of the lens, the brightest, the sharpest, the least vignetting. So Mr. Sir, whoever you are that said you didn't now want to buy that Voigtlander lens for your crop sensor Fujifilm, please heed my information here. Yeah, it's okay. You should go ahead and do that. I think a little bit of alcohol will remove that off my forehead afterwards. Let me repeat something else very succinctly here that is undeniable, okay? All camera sensors are cropping the lens image projection. All of them. Absolutely all of them. And there is a very succinct reason, as I said, that Canon and Nikon and everybody else doesn't make that many DX lenses. Because there's not really a need for it. The larger lenses actually, and here's the fact, what the larger a lens element is, it doesn't actually increase. If it's like 5% larger, the lens element, say it's the front element, it's not 5% more expensive, it's exponentially more expensive. The only reason most crop sensor lenses are made is because of the fact that they're cheaper to make and therefore are be able to produce to a final retail price cheaper to the consumer. There are quite a few really awesome DX lenses if you stick them on a full frame camera and do not put them in crop mode, have a full coverage of the sensor. I, undeniably so, have tested with a cheap adapter more FX lenses on my medium format Fujifilm GFX than anybody else out there. I've tested well over 150 FX lenses, both old and new, on my medium format camera. And I will state to you, undeniably so, that only about 15% of those have a decent amount of vignetting that you'd want to crop the image out. And of course, you could crop the full frame final image to, whatever you feel is desirable. But most of those FX lenses, they cover fine with very little vignetting. The same is true for DX lenses. The 17 to 55 2.8 Nikkor, for example, has almost no vignetting across the entire aperture range on any full-frame sensor camera. Fact. That's just a fact. So, this is just... The question ultimately that has to be answered is, what is an FX lens? An FX lens is just a lens with a slightly larger circle of projection to cover the FX sensor. There is no issue whatsoever of using full frame lenses, FX lenses, on crop sensor cameras. It is not true. It's not my opinion that it's not true. It's not my feeling that it's not true. It's flat out poppycock, twaddle, hogwash, nonsense, idiocy, lunacy. It is not true. Not true. No. Not true at all. Did I make myself clear? Yeah. I think I did. I think I made myself pretty clear. Yeah? And let's stow this pin for later use. There we go. There we go. Fits right there perfectly. Thank you so much for watching. I hope I could clear that up and erase some of the nonsense, because it's nonsense.